One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Launch July 16, 1969, Apollo 11, carrying lunar astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins, entered lunar orbit on July 20, 1969. Immediately after the Lunar Spider model landed in the Sea of Silence region of the Moon, Neil Armstrong walked on the lunar surface, followed by Buzz Aldrin. They stayed on the Moon for a total of 21 hours and 36 minutes. The story we have been told, as we know, is always in this direction: did humanity really go to the Moon? The opinions of those who argue that humanity did not go to the Moon can be divided into two as follows. Complete fraud: the opinion of those who argue that the Apollo flights were completely fake. Various sources include claims that technology was not yet sufficiently developed in the 1970s, such as that the Van Allen radiation belts would not allow this journey. Partial fraud: according to this view, a manned spacecraft was put into orbit around the Moon, but the spaceman did not land on the lunar surface. The basis of this claim is that the technology to carry out landing and takeoff the Moon is very complex. According to some variation of this claim, unmanned vehicles may have landed on the lunar surface. Those who argue that it is a fraud. Razel reflectors on the lunar surface explain observable objects in this way. According to another variation, when the Apollo project did not progress fast enough, he was afraid of losing the USA space race and organized the first Apollo flights as a fake. So, why would the USA feel the need to commit such a fraud? What could be its purpose? First, space race. The United States had entered a great prestige race with the Soviets and should not have lost. According to fraud theorists, it was more expensive and risky for the United States to actually go to the Moon than to organize this fraud. Thanks to fraud, the United States had won a cheap victory. In answer to this, again because of the space race of the United States to do such a fraud, it is more risky for the United States. The reveal at the hands of the Soviet Union's vast resources. This is great for uncovering fraud and the risk of gaining a propaganda victory. The whole world media and the cost of making credible in the eyes of the Soviets fraud was reported to be very high. The Soviet Union has never suggested that it is not true that the United States has set foot on the Moon. However, after the Apollo project successfully sent people to the Moon, the Soviets denied the existence of their own lunar projects, suggesting that they never intended to send people to the Moon. Second, agenda. According to those who claim the existence of such a reason, the United States wanted to remove the Vietnam War, which was on the agenda in those days, from the agenda. They aimed to change the world agenda, leaving behind the space achievements of the USSR, the other superpower opposite the USA, in order to make the war forget about it for a while. But this circumstance, it is a reason not only for the alleged fraud, but also for the historically real Apollo project. The success of the Apollo project was used as a propaganda tool under the conditions of the Cold War in order to push back on the agenda not only the Vietnam War, but all these issues that might arise against the USA government at the time. Third, money. The money transferred to the Apollo bill may have been withheld by those at the head of the bill, and fraud may have been committed with an increased small amount. Is it not possible to commit such a large-scale fraud at a small price? Fourth, risk. The Apollo project was so risky that, if it had really been tried, there was a high probability that it would have failed with the technology of the era. Therefore, their managers felt the need to commit fraud. However, technologies at various stages of the Apollo project, such as sending people into space, walking in spacesuits, looking to spacecraft, putting spacecraft into lunar orbit, soft landing on the moon, were successfully performed on other flights before Apollo 11. It can also be understood that sending a man on the moon was not beyond the technological possibilities of that time, since the Soviet Union carried out a similar project at the same time as the United States. What are the allegations raised and the answers refuting these allegations? First claim. The claim that the lighting in the moon landing photos is artificial. Although NASA states that the only light source they use on the lunar surface is the sun, the claim that there are shadows in the photos refutes these days. First answers. The sun is not the only source of light on the lunar surface. Sunlight reflects off the lunar surface, creating a light source that comes from different angles. The Earth, which was in the sky during all the Apollo landings, is also a strong light source that illuminates the lunar surface. The Earth illuminates the lunar surface more strongly than the moon's light visible on Earth. Second claim. After the Apollo project, which lasted from 1969 to 1972, NASA was reluctant to go to the moon again. Second answer is the Apollo project was built to win the space race. Once the race was won, there was no need to maintain expensive lunar flights. As a matter of fact, when the Soviets were defeated, they cancelled their own lunar projects. Third claim. That the Van Allen radiation belt between the Earth and the Moon must have decimated the astronauts. Third answer is the duration of the Apollo spacecraft passing through the Van Allen belt was 4 hours. During this time, the aluminum alloy hull of the spaceships protect the spaceman. The route of the Apollo vehicles was also calculated in such a way as to ensure that the spacemen were exposed to a minimum amount of radiation. As a result of this, the average amount of radiation received by a person participating in Apollo program remained below 1 rem. This dose is equal to the radiation that a person living at the sea level receives in 3 years. If there really was such a danger, it would not be possible for all physicists in the world not to see it. Physicist James Van Allen, who found the radiation belts during the Apollo flights, was alive. If he, too, was not part of the alleged conspiracy, he should have announced that he would kill the spacemen of the generations he found himself. On the contrary, Professor Van Allen has described the claims the generations will kill astronauts as nonsense. Fourth claim. The claim that no stars are visible in photos. Even on Earth, stars are visible, but the stars should appear clearer in atmosphere-free environment. Fourth answer is all lunar landings were made during the daytime when the sun was in the sky. In order to clearly photograph the lunar surface and other objects shining with extremely raw light, the cameras shoot at high shutter speeds. As a result, objects under bright light appeared clearly in the photos, but relatively faint stars were not visible. This station is similar to in the fact the stars are not visible at night under bright street lamps. The same station is observed in space flights other than those made the moon. For example, in the photographs taken by spacemen of various nations on the International Space Station, the few photos taken by the Apollo spacemen that do not look at the bright background show stars. Do you really think went the moon? Write your thoughts in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe. Stay healthy.